Hello. Welcome to another Bad Batch music commentary stream. I'm Xanthe. This is my friend James, and we're going to be talking about episode 8, Reunion, the music and
Yeah.
sound thereof. Our friend Justin couldn't join us today, but he has sent over notes that we will transmit. If I said that in the tactical droid voice, it would be. Cannot transmit. Wait. Cannot transmit. Cannot transmit.
Nice. I'm really sad Justin's not here. So if Justin watches this later, we're sorry we missed you because there are some really cool sound effects in this episode that I was looking forward to hearing them do. So I'm sorry.
We can
We
say
we
stuff.
moved the schedule on him, so he couldn't do it. So
Yeah. But there is a lot of there were a lot of interesting sound things that we can at least talk about without him.
Yeah.
And
I can do like some or stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been hanging out with a 1-year-old for the last week, so I've been getting really good at mouth sound effects to entertain people. So that's basically what I've been doing. I've been speaking gibberish for half the week. So excuse me if I don't make as much sense as I normally do today.
All right. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Here we go. It's like Sunday, so it's like a weird day to be doing this. But okay, there are a lot of musical things that we can talk about. I have a few like examples prepared, and I also think this is probably a good opportunity to talk about musical tropes and like specifically the Western vibes that we are getting with the introduction of Cad Bane. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Maybe we should just start with that.
Okay. So why don't I do something for you here? Okay. All right. Here we go. This is guess where this is. Okay. And then we'll talk about it. Sound check. All good?
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything?
No.
Can you hear me? Right. But I mean, you can hear my voice.
I can hear you. I just can't hear what you're trying
All right.
to do.
Okay. Okay. I didn't. Well, I wasn't playing yet. So
okay.
All right. All right. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Here we go. I got sheet music too.
Oh.
Ooh, I came all Xanthe prepared today. Here we go. There we go. There's my multi-instrumentalist, multi-percussionist rendition. So what are we talking?
We're talking about the shootout, or really like when they're talking.
This is right.
Cad Bane.
Shootout. This is right when he says. This is right when Cad Bane says like hand over the girl, right? And then Hunter says, I can't do that, and then he says that's unfortunate.
Oh my gosh. The way he says that's unfortunate, it's so melodic. It's like, that's unfortunate. It's like, that's unfortunate. I don't know. It's like in the A
he does.
range.
Yeah.
And it's just like super melodic. And actually, Cad Bane's voice is something that I wanted to talk about because I think it sounded different than it did in Clone Wars.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. Yeah, is it the same actor? I know that Corey Burton did it in Clone Wars. I don't know if he did it for Bad Batch.
It's the same actor, and it's a great, and it's like fantastic delivery.
Yeah.
It's like the sound mixing, or the filtering is different. I actually asked David W. Collins about it, but he couldn't share. So
okay.
I felt like before, I felt like Cad Bane had a much more mechanical voice before.
Sure.
Like it still was a little bit mechanical, but I feel like before it was almost like harmonized. Like a harmonizer was maybe on it, so it was a couple notes at once, or maybe like in my head I was thinking like before it sounded like there was much more of a ring modulator on it, which is like just the multiplication of some other frequencies, and just something to make it sound like thicker, or maybe some formant shifting or pitch shifting and doubling or something. But it sounded more like a kind of a normal voice, and before it sounded closer to like a droid voice almost.
Yeah. There's definitely, I agree. There's definitely some type of doubling on his voice in the past, and that might have changed here. Yeah, I'm really curious about what they did production-wise on his voice too, which is a whole nother thing, right? Which is like, how do you use technology to create a voice of something that sounds organic, but also doesn't sound human, right? I find that's an interesting process, I'm sure, that I don't know much about. But in terms of, because a lot of times when you alter someone's voice, it just ends up sounding like a robot, right? It just sounds like you add auto tune, you end up tuning someone's voice. It sounds not supernatural, right? So I'm curious at what this.
Which I think it's probably not supposed to sound natural with Cad Bane, because I mean he has like I mean maybe it's something with his breathing tubes or something,
right?
But yeah,
He has a little bit of like some alterations, right?
Yeah.
But somehow it doesn't sound like a droid still. Like he doesn't sound like a droid. He does sound like an altered organic being, and it's a cool combination of sounds. But yeah, I want to go back and listen, because I didn't notice that it sounded different. But I'm sure you're right on with that, because it's also been a long time since we've seen this character, right?
Yeah, it's been a really long time, and I mean honestly, I looked up my old notes, because like I've been, because I was tweeting like the little reviews as we were watching Clone Wars, and yeah, there's something there, and maybe it's nothing, maybe it's like maybe they forgot it, maybe just like their animation stylistic changes, maybe just the sound design can go through stylistic changes too, and so maybe that's just
so they didn't save a user preset in Logic for Cad Bane. Right, they had like a channel strip preset that's like all the plugins that they use to make him sound like Cad Bane. They're like, oh man, we didn't save that. We didn't know he was coming back. What did we do? Back when we did that, we had Logic 8 and all of our, I'm sure they're on Pro Tools, but sorry for all the DAW humor that we're doing. The DAW humor continues.
And the part of me who, like, if I were to make more of it, I would say that maybe there's been a change with Cad Bane, his breathing tubes or something. But I don't. I think I'll reserve judgment, but it did sound different to me, and so
I mean, we're gonna see. It sounds like we're gonna see more of them. I mean, I had this. So, have you? I know you're like super not spoiler interested, but have you seen some of the unused art?
I've heard about it.
In the animatics for Clone Wars? Well, he was supposed to have a shootout with Boba Fett, right? So I had this feeling in my stomach. I was like, are they really gonna like put him on screen only for him to get? Because what happens in that animatic is that's his death.
Yeah.
And he gets shot by Boba. And I was like, are they really just going to have like they're bringing back this fan favorite character and he's just going to get shot by Hunter? Of course they didn't. So obviously he's going to be sticking around. So I'm curious to hear his voice a little bit more. Yeah.
So Cad Bane is like the things, going back to what you played. So you just played some you played several percussion instruments, and
I did.
The whole, like, everything about Cad Bane's appearance and in the show, and just like appearance as a character, everything about that is intentionally a very big nod to Morricone.
A tip of the giant 10-gallon hat to these tropes.
Yeah.
If you will.
So visually, a lot of people picked up on stuff. It's like the trope of zooming, like close-ups on their faces. What are some other Western tropes that they were pulling from?
you've got like a shot where there's like, you can see the back of one character and it's all like you're seeing past that character towards the one that's dueling, right? You get like the holster shot, right? At the gun, right? You get that whole thing.
Did you see any
Sound-wise,
tumbleweed?
I don't
forgot.
know if we saw a tumbleweed. It's a shame if we didn't. I mean, how funny would that be? It's just, and it would be like a junkyard like piece of junk that would like, because we're in Braca, right? So that's
some like shedded Dianoga skin.
Yes,
Do they shed?
yes.
But what we really picked up on was the musical tropes used. So like a lot of people picked up on it. It's not like some big secret. It was a very overt reference to Western films, or specifically Sergio Leone. Is that his name?
Yeah. Spaghetti Western. Call it spaghetti Western because a lot of the directors of that genre are Italian. They were made in Italy.
Yeah. Or I guess they were made in Italy or Spain, but it's like that specific genre of Italian Westerns.
Right, exactly.
So musically, it hit like every mark that you would do, like if you were trying to make a Morricone pastiche. So of course, Ennio Morricone is the composer. Was the composer. He passed away last year, but he did Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I mean, he is the one that people are emulating when they do the quote unquote Western sounding shootout vibe music. By the way, Jonah, you didn't miss much. Jonah's like, crap, I'm late. We're talking about the Western musical tropes.
Excuse me.
Sorry,
Jonah missed
a wonderful
incredible one-man performance of some,
which he will do again. So,
I guess I'm gonna do it again. Okay.
I mean, just So
yeah. Of course, I will.
Let's name some of the tropes. So Morricone is the composer, and so if you were to make a pastiche of all of the elements that he would do, like a parody, you would basically do it exactly how the Bad Batch did it.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is the flute thingy.
Yep. Yeah. And falling, glissing down off of, or falling off those notes. Exactly.
Yeah. And the
guitar.
Yep.
And typically a bar chord. I wish I had a guitar with me, but just jigga-jung, and they actually did jigga-jun, 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 or I'm not sure the exact rhythm. Yeah, they did like a whole step down.
It was dee-dee-dee.
Yes.
And then in the bass.
Yes. And then percussively is where my ear goes. Some big sounds. Shaker. I mean, this sounded like it was like a seed rattle, which would typically be, so like almost like peas in a pea pod, right? Seeds in this.
And it's supposed to remind you of rattlesnakes.
Exactly. And I've got it's been very convenient for me to be at my sister's house for these past 2 weeks because I've got all these baby toys that my 1-year-old has. So I've got his shaker. I hear him crying upstairs. Maybe that's maybe that he realized that I stole his toys. But so I've got a little shaker ball here. It's basically like an egg shaker. There's seeds on the inside. And typically this stuff is going, kind of it's got a crescendo to decrescendo, right?
Yeah. So it will swell in and swell out.
Swell in and out, exactly.
And in the show, I believe it was a little bit pitched lower than that, but it was.
Yep.
It tends to happen when there's especially when there's danger or like something about to happen. So I noticed it around when Cad Bane was talking, it would be, it's kind of random, but it also would be after his spicy lines.
Yes.
I think about being in the desert and kind of being afraid of rattlesnakes. I mean, I know they're not thinking of rattlesnakes, but the fact that they used some rattles in this just points to the fact that this is, like a Morricone pastiche or
Yeah.
supposed to emulate that, because obviously they're not like afraid. They're not trying to evoke rattlesnakes in Star Wars.
Sure.
I mean,
Right.
maybe on a desert planet, but not really. So like, it's a carryover from something that made sense in the westerns, that musically, because it's such a recognizable trope, it has carried over to Star Wars, even though we no longer have like rattlesnakes. You still hear them. I think it's interesting.
No, it's so true. It's so true. And I think it paints that scene of it. You can hear a pin drop, right? And in the you can even hear the rattlesnakes, right? And everything's quiet right before the draw, right? That it's supposed to give that desolate desert feeling. And it's I mean all this stuff is like subconscious at this point, like as a culturally subconscious music, right? Things that at one point were a little bit more direct in their references, but now they basically it just elicit those feelings. But there are obviously like you said, they have these very specific origins. Also, woodblock or some type of clave, or I think they got some like tempo blocks in there doing stuff like right. That happens in here. In here, they do a lot of just double clicks, click, 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 click. And they do that with wood blocks. They have some claves in there, maybe even some stick clicks. A lot of essentially when you click two pieces of wood together, you get a lot of variation depending on the size of the piece of wood that you're striking. How reverberant it is, how large the chamber in which like this is actually I've got cloth on the inside of this
So it's
piece
not
of wood.
very reverberant.
It's not very reverberant.
But the one that we hear in the episode is much more reverberant, and
much
such as
more so.
in the Western trope also. It's more reverberant.
Absolutely.
It'll often like the reverberating guitar will be a thing too. So a lot of the times Western or like Morricone music sounds almost like surf rock a little bit in the electric guitar. Though we got acoustic in this. Like it was a less of a surfy one in this, but we still did get I noticed a few
it comes from slide guitar. That's what the sound is, right? For that southern and western trope, right? Is the slide guitar, which kind of elicits that surf guitar because there's actually a whole another culture of slide guitar playing, which is Hawaiian slide guitar playing, right?
Did we hear No, we didn't hear gunshots. That would have been funny though. We did hear the trumpet, which is a very the trumpet is very, very common. I would have been surprised if we didn't hear the trumpet, but yeah, the trumpet was imitating the sort of flute introduction little motif. And it's associated with Cad Bane actually and other stuff. It's the doo-doo-dee-dee, doo-doo-dee-dee. One other thing that was the timpani. You started out by playing timpani. So what role does timpani play? I did notice the timpani sort of prefaced his entrance.
Absolutely, yeah. Timpani was going on through that entire section leading up to the section that I just played, which is when they really start to say like, okay, we're gonna have a problem here, right? Which is like I'm looking
that again.
Yeah. And I can let me text you the score of just this 4 measures that I played real quick. It's right here. So, and you can throw that up. In fact, I'll play the whole thing, Xanthe.
Ooh.
Okay. All 4 with the shaker and everything. All right, here we go. All right. And by the way, this is my Logic timpani sample. I don't have timpani here, unfortunately. There we go. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. There you go. So basically, E's and B's.
I didn't hear the timpani.
Oh, okay. One more time.
But I
change my
I have the sheet music up now. So you're playing starting from the beginning of this?
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah, you can hear. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Ah,
Cool.
yeah. I see what you mean with the fading in and fading out of the shaker. Your voice is muted now. Okay.
Change sources here. But yeah, absolutely with the fade in and out, right? You get those hairpins, right?
Yeah.
Of the
So another
shakers.
interesting
Super
thing
characteristic.
that I heard that was sort of like the rattles, the rattles, in that it makes its origin had a specific reference point, and at this point, I don't think it does. Oh wait, do you know what time of day this was taking place?
In this episode?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is it's pretty dark outside, right? In this particular scene, but it's you can see a little bit of light in the sky, and whether that's actually from the sun or whether it's just still the lights from the Empire or whatever is up. But typically this happens at high noon, right?
Well,
That's
the
the
thing that we heard actually when they started when the shootout started, we heard the church bells, which is a western,
right.
which comes from like the
Yeah,
western
the
high noon shootout,
chimes.
the church
We
bells.
had
Yeah, and
exactly.
I think it's really funny that we heard it there. It's another
Yeah.
western remnant. Yeah, it
And
worked
this
really
to me,
well. I think it sounded great.
there's another moment in the last few years that I can think of that really echoes this atmosphere, both in the way it's shot and the
What?
way that it's and that's Luke and Kylo in Last Jedi,
Oh yeah,
right?
but
On
but
Crate.
except for the music.
There's some moments that John Williams he's a little bit more subtle. John Williams is a little bit more subtle with his references. And there's some moments in that score that definitely echo some of these sounds, and specifically there's some xylophone hits in that scene that I
Oh,
remember that
okay.
really echo some of the wooden clave sounds of these types of things. You can hear the in the xylophone, but you still like the way it's shot. You get all these like classic shots of the high noon
Yeah, the
between like
shots for
Luke.
sure.
And actually, maybe I'm not thinking of Luke and Kylo. Maybe I think I'm thinking of Luke and the First Order, like before he actually squares off against Kylo. He's just squaring off against all the walkers, right?
Oh, okay.
And
I'll
they,
have to pay
yeah,
more attention there.
yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, but, I mean, you just see this. I mean, this is definitely a recurring trope. I mean, I'd love to go back to Mando Ahsoka episode where Mando's facing off against
Oh yeah, because that was very Kurosawa inspired.
yeah, well, you got Kurosawa on one side with Ahsoka and
I know who you're talking about.
magistrate, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Mando on the other side with the Western, doing the duel
Mm-mm.
with I forget what the other character's name was. But anyway, yeah, this is definitely. I mean, we're talking
There's Bo-Katan.
Star Wars. Star Wars is a Western, right? I mean, like Star Wars in its DNA in many ways is both a Western and a samurai movie, and then like it's a trope. It's a trope reference in many ways, but set in a totally new. So I think it's important that they keep pulling from those, and I'm glad that they are.
The one final thing about that scene I'll say is that especially like when I think it was after Hunter was already shot, I did notice the very sort of modern film impact hits, do 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 do, like, and then also a very modern filmy / pop music chord progression.
Yeah.
With the impact hits, with it like doom, and
Yeah.
so that was kind of a
To
way
me, whenever
to
I think of that progression, I think of Kronos and Requiem for a Dream. I think that's to me that's like
totally,
that theme really comes to mind.
yeah,
Epic modern heart string pulling music.
yeah,
Um,
or the four chord song.
Oh, sure, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah,
We got the Western thing down.
Yeah.
I have a lot. There's like, okay.
I'm glad because I was listening for, I mean, this isn't actually a very percussion heavy episode. And I like to focus
hit
on
stuff.
I like to hit stuff. So what I think you should do is I think you should just quiz me. I think
Okay, I'm going to quiz you. All right.
Throw some stuff and
This is a
I'm
quiz
gonna
for
guess
anyone watching and James. I'm going to play a few little thingies and you tell me when they happened.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Metronome. Let's see. Okay.
Okay.
Should I tell you the instrument first or?
No. I mean, I always assume that it's not piano and
Okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Start over.
Okay. So there's a lot of 6/8 in this episode. Or triplet feel type of things in this episode actually. And I believe this is happening like when it's later in the episode for sure, right? It's late, a little bit later, at least, right? Like maybe like 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
And is this when they're like starting Crosshair starting to turn on the big engine?
No.
Okay. Crosshair is somehow a part of this though, right?
Sure. There's another character it's very associated with.
Okay.
Hint, the upper voice is strings.
Yeah, I remember this moment. I'm trying to remember where it was. So, is this yeah. So yeah, so this isn't when he's turning it on, and is it? I mean, where is it? Where Wrecker is
it's a
placing
thing.
It's a Wrecker thing. Okay. Is this when he's Is it when he's placing the charges and blowing up the? Is it? I guess is this before or after they get into the engine?
Okay, wait. Jonah says when the engine fails.
Meaning when they've blown it up.
Yeah, I think
Is that right?
I think that's what's happening. It's when, but like specifically, it's direct hit.
Okay. Okay. It's when he throws. No, this is before then that.
Okay.
Then that. So this is when he throws he has the big thing. But
there's a much more direct like.
Yes, yeah. I remember this. He hits it. He throws the bomb at him. And just
and it's a very Wrecker has a lot of good stuff in this episode. But yeah, it's when he like the music very suddenly and triumphantly just does that. Like very on the nose with like his celebration of the direct hit. And I found it to be like a humorous part.
Yeah,
I found it very funny.
Yeah. I noticed that.
And so
it's interesting.
This voice is exactly, Jonah. This is like brass, low brass.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is fun.
Okay, let's see.
All right, give me another one. All right.
One. Should I do this one? Okay. Ooh, this one has a lot of voices. Okay. I'll do the easy one first. I'll do it on violin.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is this? Can you tell me? Is this on trumpet or brass?
No, it's more like some sort of a synthy flute or string thing.
Yeah. What is this? What is this? This is Bang. Oh, is this when Omega is talking to
So okay, the string, but there are strings, but they're playing like kind of soft padded chords, like.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is this when Omega's looking out? Hmm. So is this? Oh, I mean, this isn't a wide shot of Braca that's happening.
Nope.
Huh. It sounds very similar to some of the music that the synthy sounds
At
looking
the
out
end,
over
the thing
Braca.
that comes in is a sort of a flute, sort of reminiscent of the Western shootout flute.
Interesting.
And also, the very final note is like sort of a marimba or like a pipe, sort of like a.
Huh. Okay. You know, let me ask. Is this when they're I noticed there is this weird little flute line that happens when they're picking out the explosives for the first time. Is it anywhere near when when Wrecker finds the explosives and they're like and he's hanging out with Omega?
No, Jonah's right.
It's the credits?
Yes.
You know I don't watch the credits, okay?
But it was like such an obvious. It was such an obvious like divergence.
Yeah, man. I you know what? I did actually hear that when I was pulling.
I saw some people tweet like there was no music in the credits, but there totally was. It was just very soft and slow.
Very soft. This is what ended up happening. Okay, is that I went to rewatch. I watched it for the first time at like late at night, right? And then when I went to go rewatch, when you resume, it picks up where you were left off, and I had left off in the credits. So I remember when I opened it back up to watch it again, I heard exactly what you're playing and went, that's kind of interesting. And then I was like, oh, let me just watch the episode. And then I never rewatched the credits. So where I had heard it was the split second that I reopened my app. So, it was in there somewhere. I noticed that was interesting. It almost made me feel like it was actually Blade Runner has some really the original Blade Runner has some really sad credit music too, actually.
I really liked the credit music. I thought it was, I mean, it was also very, I wonder if Mando did this too when Grogu disappeared. I just can't remember.
Yeah, I think it did.
But it's like normally the theme has the triumphant Bad Batch thing, and then there's like the big Omega.
Yeah.
Which I was able to play like a week ago. What happened to it? And this, it just very, very slow Omega theme. It still is Omega. Could you hear that?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's very reminiscent of Omega. And it's funny, as I was gonna say, is like, go ahead and play those. Can I ask you to play it one more time?
Yeah, because there's another fun thing in there.
There is another fun. I think we're about to both say it at the same time. Go for it. What's your first note?
Actually, that sound I accidentally just made with my violin sounded also like some of the hits that were in there.
What's your first note for this one?
F.
Yeah, it's totally true. F.
So basically, there's an extra note in there.
And you ready? Yep. So, of course.
Let's do that again together. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I'm on a retro synth today, so we can reference The Shining and Wendy Carlos, of course, the amazing Wendy Carlos, and who totally quoted this a lot in the music of The Shining.
Not to mention John. I mean, my favorite example. Okay, wait, Jonah. Hey, K-pop times. Jonah says it sounds more minor than major. That is definitely very true. So what that actually is, that James and I both picked up on the same thing. It's not overt. It's just we spotted it in the middle of this melody. It is Dies Irae, which is a Latin for Day of Wrath. This is a short motif that is quoted in numerous films and pieces of music in Star Wars and beyond. Whenever if people ever have trouble remembering it, which like once you know it, you don't forget it. But if you have trouble remembering it and you know The Nightmare Before Christmas, I always say, just think of the song. Making Christmas, make the Christmas, da 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 da. Because that is the Dies Irae. Dee 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 dee. And of course, this pops up naturally in music a lot of the times, probably an accident a lot of the times, but sometimes it feels like really appropriate. And this is one of those moments where in the credits, you know, Omega's theme normally is, and this time I heard a distinct like addition, and it was kind of coming from another voice, and it was mixed a little bit under. But this time I heard they snuck in like a little Dies Irae note. Again, maybe it's a coincidence, but
little D.
we both picked up on that.
Absolutely, and just to give a little bit even more context for the Dies Irae, like it's from the Requiem Catholic Mass, right? Which
it's like centuries old.
Centuries old, like the 13th century, and it's an old melody that you would hear like typically like Gregorian chant, right? Like Catholic monks singing for the dead. This is a song for the dead. Exactly, and specifically referring to the Revelations, but like would be sung during. This is like thought of as like the death march in some ways. And so that has a lot of cultural capital. We're talking about, it's really cool that this came up because we are talking about cultural subconscious elements here, and that we've got the trope of the Western. You just feel that energy, and you just feel that that type of scenery just with the sound world created in the Western scene. Same thing here. Because it's played when what happens? Omega gets captured, right? So we've got a sense of loss here, which is really poignant because we're hearing the death melody, right? And like I said, notably found in like literally played as like Dies Irae in the music of Wendy Carlos in The Shining. And then what's the big piece that quotes it like to the T? It's Symphonie Fantastique, exactly.
By Berlioz.
Yeah, exactly. Right when it happens, when the guillotine comes down, right?
Yeah. K-pop Time says, or the voice in Frozen 2. I've only seen that once, but.
Oh man.
And then Rogue One used it too. Yeah, it's in The Last Jedi a lot. It's also, if you listen to, is it Anakin's Betrayal? I think that's the one from Episode 3. I mean, like Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. I think that's the one that has a lot of Dies Irae in it. Yep, exactly. Symbolizes death, which doesn't necessarily mean someone's going to die, but like it's used sort of as a danger warning. Like you're supposed to feel like this is creepy here, and not everything's okay.
For sure.
And
for sure,
just chilling to hear that as the end credits.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. I'm glad there was a reason why I didn't hear that. The reason is I didn't watch the credits. So I'll watch the credits in the future more often.
I know. It's funny. Like the credits have been the exact same for the past 6 episodes, but the one that you didn't watch is the one that really changed it up.
Well, here's the thing is, and folks should think about this when you go to the movies, you watch a TV show, the credit music, you might just think it's like you just put on, like maybe some of the main themes, maybe the songs, but it's really important because it's what carries your thoughts into the post movie, which is like, and then you get to sit with the themes and everything, and that's supposed to be the soundtrack to like how you feel about the movie when you're done,
I
right?
think it depends on the
So
movie.
yeah, no, of course, but I mean, if it's done well, it should do its job to do that, right? But if you
Yeah,
ever
I always
notice,
hear the end. I always stay for the whole end credits.
yeah,
And sometimes it's like really just more of a rehash, or sometimes in a lot of movies, it's like maybe the pop version of a song that was in the movie.
well, you know what's funny? I was just about to say is that sometimes when there's a song written for the movie, like it's usually doesn't happen right after the movie ends. It's usually the second track in the credits because it would be really jarring if they just started like for instance that Venom song. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I've never heard of the
Venom.
movie Venom.
Venom. Okay, so Eminem did a song for Venom, which would
Okay.
have been did like how everyone knows like it's been happening for it's basically a cash grab where it's like you make some big artist to
True.
like
Like
make
the
a
Lego
song
movies.
for the movie, right? Some pop artist, right? And it's both a single but it also promotes the movie,
Yeah.
So anyway, that song is later in the credits, right? So it's and there's many songs like that where it's like the song that was written for the movie isn't the first thing you hear because it would be actually not it wouldn't really support the movie to hear that right away when the credits roll.
I'm thinking of a lot of counter exambles, but I know what you
Oh, I
mean.
mean,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, of course,
if
some
it's a
people do it
movie,
not that way, but yeah,
yeah, if
for
it's a
sure.
movie that's like if it's more of a kids movie, then they might do that. But if not,
Well,
then
because
maybe not.
that probably would serve the movie, right? Because it's more celebratory at the end,
Yeah.
etc., right? But yeah, I think if a credit song does its job right, it should make you reflect on the themes of the movie,
That said,
and
TV show credits are usually very, very short, like
right,
short intro and short outro. And that's because of streaming.
right,
You know,
right.
there used to be, I actually like it. I think it would be really cool to have like nice intro credits or something. But like, I also understand it sort of would maybe take away from the believable cinematography, like feeling of
Yeah,
popping you back in the episode. But
sure.
end credits, like the end credits of this show are
They
super
are.
short. I
Well, and
mean,
you've
like
already
the
mentioned
music.
this as well, like the fact that it floats away from you so you can just immediately go on to the next thing is actually doesn't serve the art very well, right? And
I
it's
mean, it's
annoying.
really just it's a streaming service trend to
Yeah,
get you in and out as soon as possible. I mean,
right.
it happens on YouTube too. Like,
Yeah,
you have to hook people in the first like 1 second. Well, yeah, everything is just like a progressing series of like hooks to get you in. And if you're seeing like the same title sequence, you might not be drawn in as much,
good
which,
point. Yeah,
which I think is not true if you are a loyal watch viewer of that show, but that's not designed for loyal viewers. It's all designed for new viewer acquisition. Like, you and I, everyone here would, sit through if there were an opening credit scene. That would be, because we're there. Like, you don't have to sell us on watching Bad Batch or
right.
something. We're already going to watch it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a thing. But the end credits are short. I will say, like, this is not Bad Batch, but in general, like in general in episodes 1 through 9 of Star Wars, and I think probably for the anthology films too, John Williams is notorious for actually putting a lot of new developmental work in the end credits. So if you ever, I mean, the next time you sit down to watch, one of the main episodic Star Wars films,
Mhm.
I definitely recommend that you listen to the end, because that's where you'll hear like some of the symphonic suites or some of the
For
like end credit
sure.
suites that John Williams does, and sometimes
For sure.
he develops the themes much more in those than made it into the movie, and you actually can hear really purposeful, new, interesting material. Like, there's some stuff with Rose's theme, at least, that you don't hear in the main movie, but you only hear how it develops in the end credits. And there's even some stuff with like young Anakin and stuff. So that's just
Cool.
a side note. But yeah, so then
Cool.
there's composers like John Williams who actually the end credits is almost like an Easter, is a big like hint almost. So Yeah.
Y'all, this is what I'm saying here, okay? Y'all watching, like, where are you going to find this? Where are you going to find this analysis of the credits of your favorite Star Wars movies? You're not going to find that
Just
on
your
any
resident
other
nerd.
channel.
Yeah. Well, now that people have popped in 45 minutes into the video, the point at which I hook people in the first 1 second is already gone. That's like I'm really bad at that. So
now we're in the credits.
It's mostly like the people who want to be here are the people who are here.
You think that you're a nerdy podcast? Yeah. Do you spend like 15 minutes of your podcast just talking about the credits?
Okay, here's another part.
I love it. I love it.
Here's another section. Okay. Let me set it up better. There's a bass note going out. So tell me when in the episode this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jonah.
Okay. So, yeah, thanks, y'all. Okay. So you said is this brass?
No, it's actually woodwinds.
It's woodwinds. Okay.
I love it because there are so many Omega themes, but they're all like so interesting.
Well, because it's Omega, it makes me think that it's got to be something involving Omega. So my guess is that it would be when Omega is talking to Crosshair.
Nope.
Okay. Play it again. Oh.
Let's do it again. It took me forever to transcribe that, so
yeah, I better get it.
I'm fairly certain that those are the harmonies. I mean, the notes are very intentional, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Or give me a small hint. Okay. Just the smallest hint you can give me.
Oboe, clarinet.
All right. What I mean is, give me a small hint that involves like maybe what's happening in the episode.
K-pop times just nerd things. Yeah, that's
absolutely
times 100. Yes, nerds are us. Yes. Right. I love how Omega's theme has so. It's funny. I called my dad today for Father's Day. I was like, and he asked what was up with me, and I said like, oh, I do like a Star Wars the show now, and he was just so confused. He was like, are you an expert on that? I was like, kind of.
And you're like the more I think about it, the more I realize that the answer to that question is yes, I am an expert on this. I don't know how this happened. It happened passively.
You just seemed so confused.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you gotta
beginning us early nerds, first half of the episode is my hint.
Okay, I mean, us nerds have to gravitate together because obviously sometimes some folks just don't understand.
It's true.
So
that's why we're friends, James.
That's right. It's the beginning half of the episode.
Yep.
Interesting. Interesting.
Oh my gosh. I feel like you almost guessed it before, but.
When she's talking to Crosshair?
No.
When she.
Is no one going to get it?
Okay, is it have anything to do with Echo?
Nope.
Okay. Then I don't want to guess it because I don't want to guess things that I feel like I will know the theme to.
Okay. All right.
So tell me.
I'll tell you. Look how fancy I am.
Oh, this is. Wait a second. This does involve echo.
Okay.
This totally involves echo. Okay. Echo walks up and this is what I was asking
about.
Okay,
fine.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I think
Are you sure it's definitely woodwinds and not brass?
If it's brass, it's muted.
Okay. I thought it was muted trumpet. That's what I thought.
Oh, it might. I thought it was like oboe or something.
It could be.
Either way, it reminded me of Rite of Spring.
Okay, well, this is the part that I thought it was. I'm glad.
Okay. I guess we're just calling it different things. It was after the bomb training. Exactly, Jonah.
Exactly. Well, Echo walks up. This is what happened. Echo walks right up to them and says, like, how was the training, right?
Oh, that's right.
And then she says, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. All right. I watched the same episode as you did.
It's so weird. Like, we always pay attention to really different things. I'm like, Echo doesn't have anything to do with it. Like, he was just the person who asked how she's doing. This has to do with Wrecker and
he was just the new character.
But I see what you're saying. Okay.
No, he had nothing. He had nothing to do with it. He was just the new character in the scene that hadn't been there yet. And when this music happened, he had entered the scene right when it happened. So it had nothing to do with him, though. That's sarcastic.
Fine.
All right. Okay. Anyway.
It was just salty because I didn't get it totally an Omega Wrecker moment. It was really an Omega moment.
Because I mean that's her theme. That's her theme, and she's in some way she's reflecting on her quote unquote failure, which wasn't,
and also since right after that, especially since her training was interrupted by more pressing matters, so it was sort of it was sort of ominous. It's like the theme is obviously different. It's like reharmonized. It sounds different than it normally does. It sounds more insecure and so a little bit more angsty, right? Like, listen to these harmonies, like. So we have an F in the bass with a G flat and a B flat. It's like they're in two different keys. Like normally, like without the bass note, it would be, and that would be normal. But then it actually does that. So
yeah.
Other notes that interject are also like in the violin and clarinet, you get like also a C and a D flat, which is also another rubbing up against each other half step. So we get like. Yeah. It's a really interesting little.
This is 2:50, right? 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yep.
Something like that, right? And yeah, it is interesting. And those parallel. It's kind of interesting. We talked about Diaz because a lot of the sounds that those horns moving in those parallel fourths or fifths, whatever they were, feels very medieval, or feels very liturgical in some ways.
Yeah, I think this episode seemed to have slightly more of a classical, like a traditional classical glimpse. Still not overall. I'm not saying the entire mood of the show changed, but just there were some glimpses of it. Because overall, I would not say that the show is like classical. Like,
no, absolutely not.
Traditional classical. It's it's a different type of genre, whatever. I don't know what genre names. That's obviously up for debate, but
yeah,
it's a different.
Sure.
It's a different
synth
era.
wave, synth. Synth. There's
it's like
lots
TV.
of. Yeah.
But this was a very Stravinsky-esque moment.
I hear that for sure. That bitonality, that kind of.
Like that, playing in multiple keys at once, sort of like accidental notes. Yeah.
It's a cool moment. It was really cool. Okay, I got one for you, okay?
Okay, your turn.
All right, and this is a rhythm that I want you to tell me what it's from.
Oh no.
Okay, I'm not going to tell you what it's not about the instrument or the sounds. It's specifically their rhythm, and I kind of wanted to talk about it just because I'm glad that they do this type of thing here and there. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. I'm gonna play this on my wood block. Okay. Cool. Here we go.
He says he has it under control. Are you okay? I was just waiting to make my move.
So then we've got this at the end. So what was your guess? Tell me your dialogue here.
Let me.
I think you got it right. Yeah.
Something like that. And then. Dun, 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 dun. Right?
Good guess. Good guess. The rhythm is pretty hip at the end. It's basically da 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 da. Right? So it's instead of so da dun da da dun da 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 da.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's totally on the offbeats.
Oh. So it's the same part.
So yeah, that's. But I could kind of tell that. I think your one was in the other spot. Yeah.
Okay, I'll show you. Oh, this is good because as I was listening, there was like a lot of action noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is around 3:41. There's a lot of like machine gun type stuff, like explosions, lots of that kind of thing. And I was very like not 100% on the rhythms that I was hearing. I just knew that there was like a sort of a syncopated like like something like that. I mean, I think it was maybe.
I'm so glad that I focused on the rhythm here.
Something like that. But then the end part, I just sort of. My one was in, it was in a very basic place. It was.
Well, yeah. And here's when we talk about DAW-based composing. Okay. So, and just for new listeners, when we're talking about DAW-based composing, like we said last week and then a week before that, and Jonah, yeah, nailing it, the Scrapper Chase, right? In the chat.
100%. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it.
Did you remember it, or did it just sound like chase music? Kind of both.
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing where, yeah.
So did I think of the rhythm in a different way than you did?
Yeah. So you're doing, so we can call it like 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. It's actually 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1.
You're talking about this last line, right?
Yeah. So yeah. So this last line right here, you've got it on dun dun digga dun dun digga dun dun dun. But instead, it's da 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 da, and it lands right on the 16th note before the, or sorry, not the 16th note, but the 8th note. Digga din ga. Okay. Before digga din da. Yeah. I mean, the 8th note before we land.
Before the string. Are you okay?
So I think, but here's the thing though, is that actually those wouldn't be 16th notes. They would be quarter, even if it was it would be quarter, 8th note. Dun, dun.
I heard slurs though, like d d d d.
But still, that would be eighth notes. Dun, because this is the dotted quarter note, right?
Yeah.
Dun dun ticka dun 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 ticka ticka. Well, eighth note 8, right? Is our eighth note, right? Are the eighth notes, right? So we never actually do 16th notes. 16th notes. The 16th notes would be this fast.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Right.
Yeah. You're right.
You have the drummer come on the show. Hey, listen, if I can't guess anything that your amazing ear picks up in the show, at least I can give a rhythm thing, you know.
James, I'm not taking away your light.
Thank you.
I am grateful for you filling out what but wow, my mind a little blown there.
But I've got my screenshot of the rhythm that I'll send you. Okay?
Oh, awesome.
So for that, and I did, you'll see it in a second, but you'll see it's still like James Waterman chicken scratch. So here we go. I'm texting it to you. Here you go.
Okay.
All right. So we've got quarter, 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 quarter. And what I highlight about this is it's got this nice polyrhythm, right? We've got one measure, which is Delton. So polyrhythm is the idea that there's two different feels happening simultaneously that create what's a rhythm that's made up of those two contrasting feels. So the two contrasting feels are triplet, 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 right? 2, 1, 2, triplet, triplet, 1, 2, triplet, 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 and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You put those on top of each other and you put them in the same piece. All of a sudden, you're hearing this push and pull because that creates some of the. What's that?
That's a hemiola.
So hemiola is typically when there's one rhythm that's and often, by the way, hemiola oftentimes doesn't line up every bar. Hemiola is usually when we would do something like if we were in 4, a hemiola would be like 1 and E and 4 1 and 2 E and 3 right 1
I'm learning right now because I actually.
Generally, by the way, that's not for sure. I mean, so you
I
would
thought hemiola specifically was just like the phenomenon of 2 against 3.
So hemiola is typically that's a what's the word not homophonic but monophonic idea. Polyrhythm is a polyphonic idea, right? Hemiola is specifically the one line that doesn't fit the phrasing or the typical rhythmic phrasing, right?
I don't know.
So they might be one and the same. I mean, I'm sorry if this is like going too deep in the weeds here.
We'll figure this out
typically,
later.
This
is just me being like, wait, I need to know as a musician.
But I mean, typically hemiola isn't referring to anything happening at the same time, but polyrhythm is usually 2 things happening at once that are different.
Yeah, right? I gotcha. It's like if you had
poly,
one,
right?
If you had like a string of beads and like a string of something else and you combine them into one string. It's like they're each their separate rhythm, but they combine to make this.
Exactly. And hemiola would have been one of the strings happening, right?
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, so we've got and this is Pirates of the Caribbean, right? So this is all right.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And it's usually supposed to create adventure and anticipation and anxiety and excitement. And the reason why it creates excitement is because you're switching feels every other measure, right? And you're creating a sense of lack of I mean, if this was just it would almost feel too robotic, right? You get movement every other measure with it switching feels that creates that sense of almost adventure.
What are your syllables?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
If you want to get in cool with the drummers, you gotta learn your
I can't do it. But
Digga-da. I like to live in America.
Everything's for
America.
America.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay.
okay. So, and then the first end rhythm, as you wrote in there, yeah, which is dun 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 dun, is the first time that the phrase kind of stops doing that rhythm. But at the end, you see my second end rhythm, which is the end rhythm, which is da 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 da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? So eighth note, quarter, quarter, eighth note, right? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neat.
Which is a cool rhythm. It's really neat because it
Jonah,
ends on that
I do
eighth
not
note
know
there,
either.
right?
How am I supposed to learn from these da-da-das? Well, I think he's saying that your dugga-das aren't very clear, James.
It's these doo-doo-doos.
It's actually interesting.
Right?
I mean, okay, so how am I supposed? Is there like a rhythmic version of solfege? So solfege,
Yeah.
melodically is sort of like how, I mean, let me know in the chat if you know what solfege is, but it's basically like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And I think a lot of people know that from The Sound of Music. And the reason that can come in handy is because if people are trying to, like, say, teach music or talk to each other about music and they're not like the best singer or just their sense of pitch is a little bit different than someone else's. And so, like, if I'm trying to hum something to James, like, do, if I'm trying to hum to him, like, la, 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 you know that part? Then he would probably be like, can you come again? Can you sing that again? And, you know, la 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 la. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? So solfege comes in handy because each of the each of the syllables is connected to like a different note. So even if I'm singing out of tune, if I at least say do re, then he could repeat it because he knows what do and re are. Yeah. So if someone's da-da-das aren't the best, are there like standard ways to refer to rhythm?
Yeah, of course. So, and I will say that it's funny that in 6/8 and 12/8, there's not in Western music, there's not super standard ways to refer to. I mean, other than counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 1,
So
2, 3, 4,
do a
5, 6,
4,
1, 2,
for
3, 1, 2,
example,
3.
then.
So exactly. So that's what I was going to say. So in 4/4, a lot of times,
Which
every
is what
beat,
most music is.
yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a note that's halfway in between each one of those notes is referred to as and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And on either side of that and are an E and an 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So using that grid, we've got 4 notes for every note. We get 1 E and an 4 notes for every beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. We can make rhythms off of that. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E, a 4 E and a 1, a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 E, a 4 E and a 1 and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 and, right? So I can take those syllables and I can tell you exactly what the rhythm should be written down using those syllables. And this is a very Western idea. Now in other cultures, there's other ways of dictating rhythm. Specifically in South Indian music, you'll use what's called Solcatu, which is instead of thinking about everything glued to a beat, we think about phrases and numbers of phrases, right? So we think about ta, taka, takite, and takadimi, which is a phrase of 1 rhythm, a phrase of 2 notes, a phrase of 3, a phrase of 4. So I can take ta, taka, takite, takadimi, and I can change speeds and I can do all kinds of cool rhythms like takata 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 takadimi takadimi takata 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 takadimi 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 takadimi, right? And so they'll, instead of using the the same grid system. It's more about the accents on the rhythms. Ta takatimi taka taka takatimi taka 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 takatimi ta takata taka taka takatimi ta takatatom takatatom
Oh my
takata. Right.
God, James. Whenever James
So
does
I mean
this, I'm
that's
just like, okay.
yeah. So
My
I mean
tongue
this
doesn't do
obviously
that.
goes very deep. Obviously, it goes
So,
very deep.
but the first thing he mentioned actually is something that I use. It's very common, even amongst non-drummers. It's a way that musicians, at least in this sort of classically trained tradition or whatever, talk to each other about music. So like if I am in a rush and don't have time to like say everything at the right time, and I'm trying to just convey a rhythm to James or to even like another violin player, I could say like 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4, 1 and 2 and 4. Like I could say like I could just pick any of these. Like literally I could say 1, 2, 3, 4, and he would know that I'm talking quarter, quarter, like 16th note, 16th note, rest, quarter. Like, so yeah, legitimately like this gibberish actually, once you get to know it, it actually does have a really specific place.
Yeah,
It's kind of
exactly.
It's kind of wild. Like
It is pretty
yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Anyway, I did have one
That's
more.
good. Yeah, let's hear it. Let's do it.
Also, let me share Justin's thoughts while I'm here. So Justin wasn't able to join us today, but he sent his thoughts. So he said, super cool transition to Scrapper Planet sound at 140, brass synths, engines.
Brass synths at the engines. When the engines happen.
Yeah.
Like when they're blowing up the engine. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I hear
Love the sounds of the smoke bomb rising sine waves and such.
that.
Oh, the smoke bomb. Anyone getting Knights of Ren vibes from the Scrapper helmets?
Oh, for sure. Well,
Oh.
I was getting Revan vibes.
Oh.
Knights of the Old Republic. But yeah, I mean that's where Knights of Ren are kind of like basically based off of is the Knights of the Old Republic and Revan and stuff like that. So
Camino ship
for sure.
sounds at around 820 are cool. Doppler.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
Love a good Doppler effect. Stormtroopers. You wrote in all caps. The ion engine chamber sound design. Oh yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, just
Around
the big
1338,
echoey
and
section.
the animation I thought was really cool and like colorful.
Oh yeah.
There.
Really cool.
Yeah. Slow theme shout out during engine escape. What is going to happen across here? Omega. There's lots of all caps. Bounty hunter dude. Yeah. Cad Bane. Lots of caps. Lots of excitement. Yay, Jonah. I'm so glad to hear that. And K-pop times. Learned something. Yeah. So yeah, that's like a way, honestly, if someone is a musician and just starts like talking to me in terms of 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and, like the E and does, I know that like they're a really seasoned musician. Like I know that they've been in this music thing for a while. That's the only way. I can't do like the level of Dugga does that James can as a drummer because I don't really need to, but it does come up like all the time, any gig, any time that I actually do have to say like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a quite a bit and talk to people like that.
And so it gets easier to be able to hear a rhythm, maybe be able to place it. Like, so if I heard like, that's the rhythm. Da 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 da. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, right?
So whenever I take dance classes, like some choreographers teach just to the music, and so they'll shout out like words that are happening, and I'm always like, so is that on the E and of the 4? And they're like, I don't know, it's on the like it's when they shout, and I'm like,
yes.
But is it on the and of 2, or is it like on the 2, or is it like on the It's very
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean the thing about this stuff is that like folks, might, just to be clear, like this isn't like what's going on in musicians' brain, like most musicians' brains when they're listening to music and listening to rhythms. Like this is all often after the fact when you're analyzing something, in order to convey it elsewhere, right? So instead of being like, oh, I heard the one, like it's usually like, no, I heard a rhythm that sounded like this. And then when you sit down and be like, okay, what is that rhythm? Okay, one and a, okay, got it. Okay, right? As opposed
it's
to
sort of
being
like a way
like,
of
oh,
shorthand notes to yourself too. And same with solfege. If I'm just like, I'm going to forget what I'm like, not going to be able to sing this later, but I know it's like re, lo, do, so, or something. Then I can.
I mean, I'm sure there's
later.
people that are super, super savvy with this stuff that do think that way. So I wouldn't want to throw everybody on those folks under the bus.
I mean, the thing is, I normally remember things by ear without doing the translation to solfege. But if I'm trying to contain too much music in my head, and it's easier for me to store it in like different parts of my brain. I don't know. I do this sometimes where like if I have to memorize too many things, some of it goes in like some of it I remember how it sounds, some of it I remember what it looks like, and then some of it I'll like I do it with numbers even.
Yeah.
So like I'll be like 5, 6, 2, like 1, 2, 3, 7, 3.1 point whatever, and then I'll also just look at it written down and just remember the other set of numbers visually. So that's just another way of doing it musically. But yeah, 1 and a 2 and is also like peanut butter jelly, which is also how a lot of like kids learn rhythms is actually with actual words and phrases, which is another
mnemonic
cool, interesting way.
We call those.
Yeah. So okay, I do have one more example.
Let's hear it.
There's brass involved, snare drums. Pretend the rhythm is consistent. It's da 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 da.
Yeah. So this is when they're setting up the bombs and getting ready to blow stuff, right? I mean, this is the Bad Batch in the engine. And it really sets up that. And like I said, I mean, there's some 6-8 stuff that it's it's nicely referenced. There's a number of things that have these triplet feels, which, and just to be clear, like we're talking about the chase music when they got we got this triplet 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 front. Here we now have the Bad Batch theme being felt in a triplet feel. Dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Right. So it's really interesting how that feel makes its way throughout many spots of this episode. I like it. I like how the through line, it references each other. But yes, that's that moment, right?
Yeah, and there are a few things I would want to point out. One is like it's almost like a half tempo. It's like obviously very slowed down and set against this very strict military march rhythm that is just, it's very reminiscent of Mars.
Yes.
And it's not like changing harmonies. It's just like pedal pointing it, which means just like holding down the same note. It's not like whatever. It's just the same with the snare. Do 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 do.
Yeah.
It's actually is that the bolero rhythm too, Ravel?
It is. Dun digga dun digga dun 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 digga dun digga 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 dun. Yeah, for sure. Also on snare drum, right?
Yeah.
The snare. That's where it starts. The whole piece starts with snare drum.
That's true.
Yeah. That's an orchestral excerpt for snare drum, by the way.
Oh, I bet. An orchestral excerpt, by the way, is like when a piece has like a hallmark part for an instrument, it'll be excerpted a lot for like auditions. So like if a snare drummer is maybe like if a percussionist is trying to audition for something, they'll have to play orchestral excerpts. And so it'll be like all the excerpts where you have a good part basically, or a hard part. It's like actors with monologues, you just pick the spot from the play where it's like a standout spot.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it was a fantastic use of the theme there to put it under the, it was very strong, but like not so triumphant as much as like
determined almost.
Determined, right? Yes, determined. And the rhythm is very determined too. It's very consistent. And, it's the rhythm of work ethic. It's the rhythm of military work ethic. And it, and the triplet, the addition of the triplets, I guess it's not an addition. It's what normally is like that sort of more duplet feel thing, not duplet, but is turned into 3 even notes, which kind of contributes to the whole like evenness and consistency of this part. Because normally it's it's a subtle difference. So it's the difference between 1, 2. Okay, it's the difference between like 1 E and a 2 E and a 2. Yeah. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. So you can definitely hear that like the first 2 when it goes up. Normally the first 2 ones are faster and the third note is twice as long as the other note. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But when it's triplets, it just basically you're borrowing time from the long note and evenly distributing it to the shorter notes. So it's just 3 notes, even time. Like so yeah, the little rhythmic. Normally that rhythm will like propel you forward, but this is just like even keeled. Is how I feel whenever, you slow down for triplets. You're not really slowing, but you're just borrowing time from other things to make everything equal.
Absolutely. And every major point of access of the song the song becomes on the beat. So bum dun 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 dun, right? Instead of
which
that,
makes it line up more with the snare drums.
We always have those notes on the offbeat,
right? Because there's much more uneven rhythms.
Oh yeah.
So it gives some of them more of a syncopation.
Exactly, and not as fluid and together.
You know what I just thought? It's like the musical manifestation of like putting on a uniform.
Yeah, everybody together,
Ding!
right?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's like everyone putting on their same gray.
What do we know about the Bad Batch in terms of like who they normally are, which is they were always stand out from.
Yeah.
The point is that they're all unique, right?
And also they're not only unique as a unit, but they're also so unique from each other. So we don't normally see them like just actually this episode, I really loved that we got to see what it's like when they're not just their separate people, when they just like spring into action and they like all know how to work together. Like that is sort of like the theme was like a great representation of that there. The changing of the rhythm and just making everything more uniform and steady. And suddenly it's like, plan 7, blah, 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 like do this. And it was just like running smoothly. It was no more like, oh, Echo's doing this thing or like, cross, like, or, Tech is being like this. And, oh, it's just Wrecker with eating more popcorn. Like this was like, they zipped up and the theme zipped up and they did it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Music you would work out to. Right. Because when people curate like workout playlists and stuff, you try to pick things with a steady beat, not something that it's going to like throw you left and right. Because I mean, if you're trying to like run and it's like the music stops and then it like jostles you to this other thing, your heart's gonna just like, yeah.
Remind me to look this up and bring and note it on next week's podcast. But there is a either an app or a website that basically finds music that links to whatever it detects your footstep speed.
Spotify does
and
that.
It picks music. And Spotify does this with your run and oh
Yeah.
well, yeah. I bet they got the idea from this app then,
Maybe
because
it's an integration or something.
Yeah, well, the app basically just like detects your what BPM you're walking at, and then gives you a playlist so that you can run right in time with your music, right?
Yeah, I think the Spotify version is like an AI. Well, it's like a created. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're manipulating music in real time to make it fit you, so it'll speed up and slow down with you. I don't know if they took this away, but a few years ago at least I tried it, and
wow,
yeah,
I did not know that.
It's like a
that would make
kind
me,
of like,
that would not.
but the thing is, I didn't really like it because it was
actually.
just like a generic.
Yeah.
It was just like kind of like a generic music that sounded,
So
in the right vibe, but it wasn't
the
like
app that I'm thinking is specifically like it takes the BPMs from the catalog that of actual like popular music or whatever music it has on its playlist, and it just matches it to your BPM. It doesn't change the music, I don't believe. So I'll remember it for next week, so I'm not just talking out of my what here. So
do you have any final thoughts?
Man, I'm interested to see how they develop Cad Bane as a character now that they've kind of blown the Western thing out of there. Where, you can't really go too far. I mean, you got to kind of develop him,
Yeah.
a little bit more. I'm also, I think we've got some confirmation on the Camino connection, so we're gonna see and hear more from the Caminoans, and I think this show just heated up. I mean, I think this is probably my favorite episode of the show. Personally, but
it was nice to see Crosshair. We didn't hear exactly this, but we did hear some like seconds.
There's some stuff in there for sure.
And we'd also got like some
at 12:10
Bad Batch
at 12 minutes and 10 minutes. 12 minutes and 10 seconds. For sure heard some of that with Crosshair.
Yeah, two-note motif. I wrote not exactly the minor seventh, but something reminiscent. There was something
something there for sure.
Yeah. I'm determined that to
it's
make
a Crosshair theme. I even said this. I said that is definitely Crosshair's theme at 12:10. But then I a minute later I'm like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
I think you're onto that for sure.
Wait, one question that I just don't know. What is Plan 7? And they're like, what about Plan 7? What is that? Is that a reference to something? I actually didn't know.
That was what Wrecker said when he was like, let's try Plan 7. Which
Are we supposed to know what that is?
I kind of took it, maybe they didn't make this clear, but I almost took it that like Wrecker was like, I think it's, because Wrecker always wants to blow stuff up. Right. So I just took it as like, he was like, what about the plan where I blow stuff up? And they were like, that has nothing to do with this situation. He's like, yeah, it does. And he's like, let's blow this whole place up. Okay. But maybe that was my reading, but maybe that's wrong.
I hope your reading is wrong.
Yeah.
I would like to know that Plan 7 is like something we'll find out later. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Maybe.
Because
right?
I mean, I think this episode, just kind of like what I was saying before, is like I felt like I was seeing a new side of the Bad Batch. Like, not that I didn't know that they were already like great at working together and executing missions and stuff, but I think it reminded me like, oh yeah, they're badass. Like, they're supposed to. They actually are. They can snap back into whatever training, and I'm sure have all these protocols and plans 1 through 7 already in their head that they haven't really talked about in other
7
episodes.
Plans.
Well, this is validating. Jonah says the motif has been stuck in my mind since the first episode.
Yeah, agreed. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. We got some more funny music, some more childlike music, very briefly.
Yeah, we did.
Crosshair's voice, still creepy. I will ask Justin next time, but I wonder if there's like a high pass filter on it that's cutting out some of the low frequencies, because there's like no low end in his voice. It's all like...
Right.
It's all... I don't know if that actually changed it, but...
not
it's
much.
All like... Okay. Well, it's all like... Yeah, you don't hear any rumbles. You just hear like the nasal upper part, but it's not like the pitch changing. It's just like I can't do it. It's yeah, it's creepy.
Agreed.
And yeah, oh my gosh, is the next episode on a Wednesday or a Friday?
Well, no, it's got to be still on a Friday. Loki is right now on Wednesdays. I know that they've said in future projects.
Gotcha. So this one we're still safe.
Yeah, I don't believe that they're going to switch it mid-season.
Okay, good.
They definitely didn't indicate that. I mean, but in the future we're going to have Wednesdays, right? And I imagine for Visions and for Book of Boba Fett. And I think is that it? That's all we have for new content this year, right? Visions and Book of Boba, right? I mean,
and
it's
some
a lot.
books. And the new Throne book. Yeah. The final of the Throne Ascendancy.
Yeah. If anybody wants to put together a petition for us to review the scores of the books as an April Fool's joke.
My God. Year. Oh, as an April Fool's joke.
Yeah. What did you think about the music on page 4?
They just use the same themes from, they just, James, it would not be as fun as you think it would be.
Yeah, it's a good punchline
though. Okay, well, definitely was some last thing I'll say. I swear, I'm looking at the end of my notes. Is like now the POV inside of Hunter's helmet. That definitely looked like it must be an exact shot from a video game. Is it?
Also,
it is, right?
So this was the Republic Commandos.
Okay, right, which is where a lot of the sounds come from too.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
I thought it was cool seeing the inside of his helmet, especially since we heard the mixing. We heard his vocals, like everything outside sounded so different when you're inside the helmet. And I really liked that perspective change.
But the blasts were just like
the tinnitus too.
Yeah.
There was the ring at the end.
Been doing a great job with those POV stuffs in this series. And you get to, it's just interesting. I mean, you just don't hear that much in Star Wars, that type of affect. And so it really cuts. I don't even know if we saw that much in Clone Wars, like that type of.
No.
Maybe season 7 we had some moments like that, but not really,
And think of how cool it would be to. Yeah. I don't think we ever saw like inside of a clone's
for sure
helmet, and let alone like a stormtrooper or something. I mean, I feel like we're distanced, appropriately so from them.
Right.
Because it would kind of be horrendous to be at least inside of a stormtrooper's helmet.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the point of the stormtroopers. They're supposed to be these like faceless.
But now that we know from Finn and Janna, we know that how like they're humans and stuff too. So that would almost be like too much. But it would be interesting if they end up going that way. I like that we at least got to see it with the character that we already care about. Yeah. Ugh. I thought I enjoyed the episode a lot too.
Yeah, I'm excited to where this goes. I mean, because now it's like Bad Batch going after Cad Bane and maybe enlisting Fennec's help or I don't know where we're going.
Hope so. They didn't write that theme for nothing. People don't create big motifs for nothing or without a purpose.
Well, like I said, they're created it for the Book of Boba Fett. I'm really excited to see to see how that develops. I actually am. Okay, so there's also some talk about Cad Bane making, or not talk, just like speculation and people wanting this to happen. Cad Bane appearing in live action, right? Jonah, I want Boba Fett to be in this. To me, what I really have always wanted with Boba Fett's story is like him to more like, I want to see his journey, because obviously he was never a clone, and his father got killed by the Republic. So obviously he feels some resentment towards the Republic, but he's also has a connection to Kamino. I always wanted just to see his story, specifically in his journey with Kamino and how it interlinked with like what happened to Kamino. And this is what seems like we're going to get some of that story in this show, which is like what happened to the cloning facilities in Kamino. And also, how does it go from being like these giant Kaminoan long-necked creatures to Dr. What's his name from Mando works for Kamino. I mean, he's got a cloning outfit on, So there's like all these there's all this mystery around Kamino, and I've always wondered like how does Boba play into it, all that stuff. So I'm excited that we might even get some of that Camino backstory, and I hope that we also get some Boba connection with this whole thing.
I hope so too. I mean, I kind of want to see some Boba soft stuff. I want to see Boba in a softer light a little bit.
Yeah.
Not in a softer light, but just know more about his inner, his side, rather than just Boba being badass.
That's where he's from, right? And I almost feel like he's gonna. I don't know how it plays in, but I know that it feels like he would fit very well in this show. It wouldn't feel forced.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Xanthe.
Thank you, James. We covered a lot of examples, a lot of musical examples. I mean, there's.
Yeah, we missed that sound element though, Justin. So once Justin watches this and we see him next week, I'm excited to get back into it. So.
Me too.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you all, or I guess we'll be back on Saturdays next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you, everyone. And yeah. Want to get it, 2 and
1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3.